move your life forward in the most positive way using astrology? Then let's talk about the astrological patterns for June 2013. The month opens up with Mars, the planet of action, traveling through the sign Gemini, along with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet that deals with expansion and optimism. Now, what's important to understand is that Jupiter is finishing up its year-long transit through this sign. So the message from Jupiter is going to be crystal clear and very important. We need to understand how we communicate, what our habits are, what our patterns are, and we need to make it better, more positive, more expansive. Now, what's interesting is that we're going to have Mercury and Venus transiting through the sign Cancer while we have Jupiter and Mars in Gemini. And this brings in the emotional, feeling element, the intuitive and the creative element to our thinking process. And you know what? It also suggests that it's very important for us to have a level of inner core security with what we need to communicate, how we need to share with people. What this means to me is that for the first part of the month in particular, we need to focus on feeling very secure and confident, communicating from the heart, communicating with compassion. All that energy will be there for us in the first part of the month, and I think it's going to be quite delightful. Now, this leads to a big, powerful full moon on June 23rd. It's a full moon in Capricorn. The reason this is so important is that this full moon happens at the very early degrees of Capricorn, and so it's going to ignite and it's going to trigger and activate that revolutionary energy that's going on between Pluto and Uranus. And what's going to be important about this is that Jupiter will be in Cancer and it's going to activate it even more. So I don't know what to say about this full moon except to say it's going to be volatile. It's going to stir a lot up. Now, if you've been making progress, if you've been moving forward in your life, if you've been releasing what you need to release, then it's going to help you just continue to move forward. But I can tell you this, if you've been hanging on to what you know you should let go, you're going to get a little push during this full moon. June 25th is actually when Jupiter officially enters Cancer. It will be part of the full moon because it will be in the very late degrees of Gemini and it will be an orb. But on the 25th is when it actually enters the sign Cancer. It's going to stay in that sign for a year. Now, Jupiter operates beautifully in the sign Cancer. It's exalted in that sign. And what we're going to see is an expansion of compassion, connection with family, connection with our feelings and our sensitivities. It's going to be really nice. And then on June 26th, Mercury goes retrograde in Cancer and stays retrograde until July 20th. Now, for people who have planets in Cancer from the mid to the late degrees of Cancer, they're going to be the ones most affected by this Mercury retrograde pattern. But if you don't have planets there, then the normal retrograde Mercury energies will apply. In other words, you'll tend to be more inward, reflective. It's a great time to correct something, to redo something. But that Mercury retrograde in Cancer is always really interesting because this is when we get to clean up family issues and reconnect with old friends and go over our emotions and make them better. So to summarize the astrological patterns for June, we start off with Mars in Gemini and Jupiter in Gemini. It's delightful intellectual energy. It moves later in the month to that big, volatile, powerful full moon around the 23rd. And then we get the Mercury retrograde in Cancer with Jupiter finally entering that beautiful sign Cancer. So the later part of the month switches to more feelings and introspection, but the early part of the month is much more curious and intellectual and outgoing. So enjoy the wonderful energies in the month of June, and I'll see you next month. I'm Kathy Rose.